So why do things seem to fall apart the second you finally get a shot with the women that you actually want? Or have you ever noticed that it feels easy with some women, but impossible with the women that you really want to date? Well, after coaching hundreds of men at this point, I've noticed the same 3 factors causing this problem every single time. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what they are, how to recognize them fast, and the simple steps that you can take to completely shift your results with the women that you find most attractive. And if this video resonates with you and you're ready to fix it fast with a clear step-by-step plan tailored to you and one-on-one coaching to have the dating life that you really want, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to apply to work with me directly. But the thing is that most guys either settle for women that they're not truly excited about, or the second they try to level up and date higher quality women, everything just seems to fall apart, and I've been there too in the past. Maybe you've even had that one-off shot with a woman that you viewed as being an 8, 9, or a 10, and then you blew it and wondered why. But it's really not a mystery. There are 3 main factors that break most guys when they get around women that they actually want, or women that you view as the 8s, 9s, and 10s of the world. And when I say the 8s, 9s, and 10s of the world, I'm talking about the women that you personally find most attractive, your personal ideal type, not just celebrities and IG models. But the first factor in all of this is a woman's beauty. A woman's beauty can be very powerful at shaking your confidence or triggering your psychology back into old patterns and identities that make you unattractive, even if you aren't consciously aware of it. And I'm going to elaborate more on these in a second. But the second one is emotional control. When you start to fold in interactions with these more attractive women, you can start to act in an uncharacteristic way that has you shaking your head later on and wondering why you said certain things or did something that threw the vibe off. And it can crush your confidence with those women because that becomes your reference point of how you act when you're around them, or it becomes the reference point of what usually happens when you interact with them. Now, the third factor is closely related to the second, and that is self-doubt. And once the first 2 start causing problems, your confidence starts to crack, you'll doubt yourself, and women smell it from a mile away. When you start dealing with women that you view as an 8 or higher, the game changes. Not because the women deserve special treatment, but because these weaknesses start to really get magnified in you. And I tell clients, treat the 9 like a 6 and the 6 like a 9. You want to get to a point where a 9 doesn't move you and is just regular to you. But you also don't want to let your game get lazy with women you find less attractive either, because your habits shape you. Remember that the things you do repeatedly and the things that you say and think repeatedly are essentially self-hypnosis, and they come together to form who you are as a man and your ability with women overall. And that's why the details and the little things along the way matter. They all add up over time into big results. Whether those results are good or bad is up to you and what you choose to do. So once you start crossing that threshold of dealing with women that you view as an 8 and above, you will notice that little behavior changes start to creep up on you. And this is where it gets sneaky. You might start saying things in text that you normally wouldn't. You might check your phone more than usual to see if she replied. You might overspend money to try and impress her in different ways, or give her compliments that don't even sound like you. Or other times it shows up earlier. You psych yourself out of approaching her in the first place, or your text game falls apart when you're trying to move things forward. Whatever it is, the point is that you start to act in an uncharacteristic way because of the woman's beauty, or even her social status in some scenarios, because it magnifies holes in your game, or it starts to revert you to a way that you used to think about yourself in the past. There are just certain women who can suddenly hit this trigger in you, where in your mind you're right back to being the unconfident kid in high school, or the overweight guy in college, the nerdy guy who couldn't get a date, or you start to think that women like her usually aren't into guys like you, or whatever insecurities rang true for you in the past. And that's when the attraction starts to fall off. The surface level problem can look different, but at the root, it's always the same 3 triggers. Beauty rattles you, your emotional control slips, and self-doubt creeps in, and you don't show up as your strongest self. And then she feels that on some level, which kills attraction. But understand, the root cause is that a woman's level of beauty only feels overwhelming if it's been rare to you. The less experience that you've had with the 8s, 9s, and 10s, the more you will pedestalize them and the more they will break you. This is also why you feel more confident and authentic with 6s and 7s, because they're more common and you've likely had more interactions with them than the 8s, 9s, and 10s. But once you've actually dated enough of those more attractive women, you stop seeing beauty as this mystical thing. It's not that special anymore when it's no longer a novelty. And don't get me wrong, I love beautiful women as much as the next guy. But there is a realization that kicks in that strips away most of the power that these attractive women hold over you, because at the end of the day, They're just women. They're just humans. And I know this is possible for a lot of you guys to date these women or to date your ideal type, because I've seen guys completely transform their dating lives, like this client of mine who's now consistently dating 8s and up, which is something that he never thought was possible just 6 months ago. And I'll put a screenshot of what he said here up on the screen. But if you haven't built that reference experience yet, beauty still has the power to shake you. Even powerful men throughout history have been thrown off by female beauty. So if your confidence isn't solid and your skill set isn't solid, her looks alone can break you. And that's when the mind games start to kick in. You start asking yourself if you're good enough, if you need to do something special or different this time to get this one girl, or why every time you finally get your shot, you seem to blow it. And these things can even be happening subconsciously. And there's a difference between the women you want and the women you can currently confidently look in the eye, stay authentic, and not fold into a weaker, less masculine version of yourself. Maybe with the 6s and 7s you're solid, but once you run into an 8 or a 9, suddenly you're acting goofy, you're over texting, you're hesitating, or accidentally bleeding try-hard energy. And that's because that is your current ceiling. You want the women at or above that threshold, but you're not actually capable of getting and retaining them, at least not yet. There's still work that has to be done, and that can vary man to man depending on what your weaknesses are. But one thing that's really important is that it takes looking at yourself holistically and being brutally honest about where you're lacking. For instance, maybe you only try to use dating apps and you freeze up when it's time to approach an attractive woman in person, so your confidence is lacking overall because you feel weak internally when that girl walks by, you freeze and you don't say anything. That lack of confidence leaks into other areas because, again, remember that everything you do is a form of self-hypnosis that forms who you are as a man. And when I say approach a woman, I mean sober and actually making a date happen. The reason I mention this is because some of you guys convince yourselves that you can approach just because you can say hi to a woman after having a few drinks in you, and then you don't even pull the girl anyway. But that's not real confidence, nor is it a repeatable skill that you can rely on to get the women that you want, and deep down you know that. Or maybe you're a guy who gets matches here and there online, but it's a bunch of women who are 6s and 7s to you, and you want to attract higher quality women, but your profile photos and text game are suboptimal, so you can't attract them in the first place, or you fumble things in text before you even get them to a date. Whatever it may be, the thing is that when it comes to dealing with these women that you view as the 8s, 9s, and 10s, you need to be honest with yourself so you can fix it and raise your threshold of skill and confidence. And that means working on your areas that are truly weak to turn them into strengths. And where most guys miss the boat is they try to logic their way into confidence instead of training it like the skill that it is. You can't listen to a couple of videos and suddenly be confident with these upper tier women. Remember that confidence is contextual and situational, so it's not built by thinking or observing. It's built by reference points and proving to yourself that you're actually capable. You need to give your brain proof instead of trying to bullshit yourself. But one tool that can accelerate this process is getting more in-person exposure to these women. Most guys I work with use online dating as their primary method, and I use it a lot myself because it's efficient, but there are real benefits to approaching attractive women in person that carry over everywhere else. Even just using it as a training tool can completely transform your mindsets and your confidence with these women. That's why I believe in combining both in-person and online methods. By adding in some approaching to remove these women off the pedestal in your mind, it doesn't have to take over your life. I mean, I'm not a pickup artist myself who dedicates his life to approaching random women, and you don't need to grind night after night or spam approach to reap the benefits either. You just need a handful of consistent reps to help desensitize you and build more confidence with the women that you're interested in, and to prove to yourself that you're capable of dating the women that you actually want, because it carries over to your confidence in all situations with women, on dates, in conversation, in text, and in relationships. It shifts your perspective. And the point is to get more exposure than you are now and to be consistent, not perfect. Cold approach used as a self-development tool helps forge confidence and resilience under pressure. And when you combine that with sharp online and text game, well, now you're dangerous because you're dialed in anywhere you go and you're the same guy anywhere you meet women. And one thing to understand is that approach anxiety never fully disappears, but you can shrink it massively once you've proven to yourself that you can get into the mix with the types of women that you want on a regular basis, and that fear will turn into excitement and motivation. The trick though is consistency. If you approach once a month, that's not going to do anything because it's like starting over every time. It's like going to the gym once a month. But if you set aside a small amount of time to go out and hit multiple reps in a single session, your brain starts to normalize it. And each guy is at a different level in terms of social anxiety. Some guys have a lot of it, others don't. But if you're someone who has more anxiety or you're just not used to doing this, you don't start with a full-blown conversation and trying to pull the girl. You work your way up bit by bit. Maybe your first micro goal is just walking up to an attractive woman, saying good morning or giving her a genuine compliment with good eye contact and walking away. That may feel like a big step for you. The point is you start at a sticking point, and once that feels natural, you raise the bar. So next you might stop her, ask a simple question, maybe add some banter, or eventually challenge yourself to keep the conversation going for a minute or two, so on and so forth as your confidence continues to rise and your skill set increases. And these small wins desensitize you to being in the presence of more attractive women, so it no longer makes you act in an uncharacteristic way, and you can fully relax into your authentic self because it's just another day to you. The goal isn't to become a pickup artist. It's using approaching as a training tool to control your exposure to the women that you actually want, the women that you view as the 8s, 9s, and the 10s, instead of just waiting around for the rare chance to bump into one or hoping that she says something first. Even 30 minutes a week of in-person exposure while you're already out doing something like grabbing a coffee, running errands, walking through the mall is enough to build reference points and raise your threshold of what's possible. And pair that with an online dating funnel running in the background, and now you're covered everywhere. And speaking of online, the same ceiling principle applies with online. Online game is heavily based on presentation, and I've never seen a profile or Instagram that didn't need improvements. So if you're swiping on 8s, 9s, and 10s, but your profile looks like a 6, or your messages read like a guy who never gets these women in the first place, you're gonna keep hitting that same wall. You want to be diverse. Having good online game forces you to dial in your look and your text game, and in-person sharpens your overall confidence and ability to hold frame under pressure. And together they raise your ceiling so that the 8s, 9s, and 10s don't throw you off. And at the end of the day, the ceiling you keep hitting won't raise itself. So if you're serious about breaking through that ceiling to have the dating life that you really want, and you want a proven step-by-step process you can implement by working with me directly, and to have that accountability and coaching, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to apply for the coaching program. And with that said, I will see you in the next one.